Good morning, and thank you for joining us for SBB University. I am your host and the publisher of Seniors Blue Book, Amanda Barton, and today's topic is creating a plan for aging. So we have some special guests here with us today, Ms. Reina Schlager with Schlager & Levin, Kelly Fair with Kelly Fair PA, and Jeffrey Testemeyer with National Cremation Society. How are all of you doing today?
Very good.
Very well, thank you.
Fantastic. So we are going to start with Miss Reina Schlager, and I want to ask you, Reina, tell me what is a good plan for aging when you're talking to a financial advisor or a CPA like yourself?
Well, let me start out by saying, as a financial advisor, there are many kinds of financial advisors, and some people think to have a financial advisor, you're going to have to pay a fee for this advice, or they may say, I don't have enough money in order to have a financial advisor. That's only for wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
And in my practice, and a lot of financial advisors here in Lee County, the people who need a financial advisor the most is the person who actually has less, where they don't have room to make mistakes. And the idea of planning for aging, well, you could go as young as the moment you turn of majority, 18, because from the moment you're of majority, you are responsible for your financial affairs. So some of my clients who are younger, millennials, whatever, they're surprised when I'm sitting there saying, go to a Kelly Fair attorney and get yourself a durable power of attorney document, because if something happened to you, I know mommy and daddy are there, but they can't do things once you are a majority. So that's like the earliest, even as a financial advisor, I'm many times pointing people to the attorney because there's things you will need along the way that are legal. But then realistically, you're going to be in your 30s, 40s, and I don't know how old people are now when they're getting married and having babies and mortgages. My generation, at 21 we were married, and by 25 we had 2 kids and a mortgage. That doesn't happen every day today. But the earlier you can start planning for the now and the later, the less you'll be caught short later. There's some financial advisors, especially on TV and in the radio, that stress pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. Well, if you spend the next 10 years paying off debt, at the end of 10 years, you may be free of debt, but you've lost 10 years of having money grow along the way. So what I would suggest is, number one, you go to a financial advisor. There are many like me that do not charge any fees. We sit down, there's never a charge for advice. We look at what you have. We look at your family situation. We look at how old you are. Maybe you're in your 50s and you have 10 solid years that you can put more money away so that you'll have a more comfortable retirement. Look, we're in a pandemic with something now called the narrative economy, where the market's moving every time somebody tweets, and it has nothing to do with whether they had good corporate earnings or not, or whether they're about to go bankrupt. So you need somebody professional to advise you on your investment decisions, whether there are tools out there who can help you make a pension because your company doesn't have one, that maybe your 2 most important assets are your home and your retirement plan, and who's advising you on both of those assets. So I'm in investment. I do not do mortgages, but the number one conversation I've had in the last 3 weeks is helping my clients decide whether and how they refinance their mortgages, because interest rates are so low. If you have an interest rate on your mortgage, which is 4%, and you can qualify for a mortgage, you can probably get it down to 3 or lower and cut your monthly payment and use those extra dollars to either pay off other debt or even start investing or adding to your 401k out of your paycheck more, because you don't have as high of expense on your monthly cash flow. So I just said an awful lot of things, but now if you were in the in your 50s and 60s, definitely I'd be sitting with something I call my estimate of holdings and identify all the different things. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys can see this. Get it off my screen. But if you are in your 50s and 60s and we go through this estimate of holdings, I don't talk about life insurance, just about do you have it, do you want to buy it through me? But do you need life insurance in retirement? These days you do. What's connected to life insurance? Death benefits, and what do you want to happen at death? So that's when I'm sending them over to National Cremation to make sure they have a plan in place. And I will tell you that because of the notes in our system, one example of what happens when you may not have great notes at home, but you have a strong financial planner who does take notes. One of my clients had qualified as a veteran for Arlington Cemetery. And when he passed away, the kids were like stressed out to figure out how do they get him to Arlington. And my note said, he didn't want Arlington, he wanted a Coast Guard burial in the Gulf. It was a beautiful moment. And we actually got the Coast Guard burial in the Gulf, which is what the parents wanted. And the children were like, you know, we just had no idea. So in planning for aging, documentation, I usually tell people, sorry, Kelly, I say, call me first, then I'll tell you to go to the attorney. But there are some things that we can do to help coordinate things before it parcels out to the other different professionals. So who to call first, leaving instructions for your family so they know what to do, having everything documented so everyone knows what you have and what your plan is for the investing of now and investing for later. I hope that covers it. What do you think?
Oh, it definitely does. I think it's a great intro and segue into talking about the next step, because you don't think about these things when you're in your 20s, but you know, you really should begin to think of them when you're younger and create a plan for aging, even from a teenager to an adult. So I think that's a great segue. So Kelly, I know that your specialization is elder law. So talk to us about what is the single most important document that you should have, and maybe some other documents that you should have in place when you're planning for aging.
That is a great question. And I would like to start by saying that yes, most people will see someone just like Reina first, because who really wants to come and see an attorney? People don't love lawyers. They don't love us. I wish they would love us more. I try to work to earn that wherever I can. When I am asked about the single most important document, or the first one that you should start with if you were only going to get one, I don't think you should limit yourself to one, but if I had to select the single most important document to consider, it is the durable power of attorney. And that is the document that lets someone make decisions for you basically about everything except for healthcare, because there are other documents for that. The reason the power of attorney is so important is that, take your healthcare surrogate, for example, the person making decisions for you when it comes to healthcare. If you don't have that document in place, there is a law in Florida that gives the kinds of people who would qualify to make decisions for you. So if you don't have it, it isn't fatal. With the power of attorney, and again, that is the document that allows people to kind of make every other decision for you, financial, business, when it comes to dealing with your home and other matters. That is the document for you. And if you do not have one, or if it is not done correctly, there is no law to back you up. So your loved ones can still help you, but they will have to go to court and ask a judge's permission to help you. And that is called guardianship court. And I will not even tell you what people are charging for 1 year of guardianship court. Okay, I will. It is, most people are charging over $10,000 in a year. I don't do that, but the costs alone are thousands of dollars just to get your case filed, just to have someone evaluated to see if they qualify, and that all could be avoided if you had the power of attorney. Another reason why the power of attorney is so important is it lets you add beneficiaries according to what, it lets people add beneficiaries for you according to what your wishes are on your bank accounts, on other financial accounts, so that you will not have to have your loved ones suffer through the probate system. It also allows someone to create a trust for you if in fact it was required and you were not able to do so yourself. So for that reason, the power of attorney is the #1 most important document to begin with.
Perfect. And just give me an idea of how you would guide someone on how to afford long-term care for the rest of their life.
That is a really great question, because if you've been to Reina, you might be able to afford private care for the rest of your life. But for someone who needs a skilled nursing facility, I mean, they can go for $14,000 a month. So if you do not have the funds to private pay, you're going to have to look elsewhere. You cannot look to Medicare because they do not fully cover that. Basically the first 100 days. But that does not help you month after month. That doesn't help your family month after month. And so even though we paid into the Medicare system, right? And I have a lot to say about that I will not, but that's been our investment, right? To defray medical costs in the future when we're not able to work so much as we do when we were younger. They won't cover it for a number of reasons. And whenever I help people with another M word, Medicaid, I am so proud to, even though I'm a responsible person, encourage others to be responsible. I'm so proud. I almost feel like it's making our investment in Medicare do what it's supposed to do. But sometimes you will have to become qualified for Medicaid in order to afford that potential $14,000 a month. And what's nice about Medicaid in Florida, I'll take a step back. Medicaid, there are federal funds. However, each state gets to distribute them however they wish and for the rules that they set. So in Florida, it is a great state for people to come and retire and be here at peace. And we recognize that people like to do so. And the way that we distribute funds is a little bit easier, a little bit better than some other states. You don't have to spend all your money until you have no money and then Medicaid steps in. You could take a step back and evaluate whether in the long term you'll be able to afford these skilled nursing communities, and you're allowed to apply early as long as you categorize your assets in a way that Medicaid will find acceptable. And as an attorney who helps people do that, it is something that provides peace of mind beyond what you would even consider when first doing this. Because if you don't apply for Medicaid early and at least save a fund to cover things that Medicaid really doesn't cover, the consequence is going to be you will run out of your money. If you're married, your spouse won't be able to even catch a cold, let alone live in comfort or have any other issues come up. But then that same place will take you and put you on Medicaid anyway. So to be able to do so a little bit earlier in time will allow for your care and comfort. It will allow to provide for a spouse, and it makes the experience that you're having so much better, and it puts so many more people at ease to be able to do it earlier. And what you want to do is get your ducks in a row. You want to meet with an attorney early on before it becomes a necessity. You want that luxury of planning for these things, because what will happen if you don't is, unfortunately, the court system and way more attorneys than you ever want to see.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, as we segue into Jeffrey, I'll ask you one more question, because we're going through the stages of life, and death is our next topic and pre-planning for it. Let's talk about how to protect your assets upon death, so that so your family and your heirs are able to successfully, avoid probate.
Yes, great question. We work so hard, and we want our loved ones to receive everything that we've worked so hard for. And seeing an attorney is the best way to go for that, because there are various plans, and they do not have to be expensive, but there are various plans that will allow for you to make sure that the court system doesn't receive your money and that attorneys don't receive your money. If an asset has to go through probate, that means it's going through the court system because it didn't have its own private way to get to the next person. You could do that by things just as simple as putting a pay on death beneficiary on a bank account, checking your assets to make sure they have beneficiaries listed. You're going to want to see an attorney, though, to make sure that's all you have to do, because sometimes people forget about the accounts that they think don't have that much in them, or their homes, or individual stock certificates. So you do want to see an attorney if you have documents that are older than 2011, because there have been some major changes back then. You want to see an attorney if you've just moved from out of state and you only have out of state documents. And you want to see an attorney if you're just not sure, if you just don't have that confidence that all of your documents are comprehensive and meet all of the requirements of Florida law.
Yeah, I think a lot of, particularly here in Florida, because we have so many people that live in both a northern state and down here, our typical snowbirds, they don't realize that they need to have those documents in place if they own property here and things like that. So it's a great topic. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Our next speaker, Mr. Jeffrey. Now, I know death is an uncomfortable topic. Talk to me about how to broach that with your family and begin the conversation, because it is one that is usually avoided until it's unavoidable.
It's unavoidable. So the easiest way to broach this with your family, and I'm glad the order that we went into today, because Reina as our financial planner, Kelly as our lawyer, and then final planning is right the next step. So when you're talking to your family, it's the natural progression. Oh, we went to a financial planner today. We got everything in. We did what we needed to. We're going to go to the lawyer. We're going to do our estate planning. And that's normal to the family. Then you tell them, okay, we put in place for our cremation or our burial. It's all set. It's a nice bundled package all together. Here it is for you. When you call your kids up and say, hey, by the way, we made funeral arrangements today, you're going to get these questions. Who's sick? What aren't you telling us? Why did you do that? Are you thinking about death? What's wrong? It's all this barrage. In the next 6 months, then they don't believe you. So if you do it as a stepwise process and bundle the three of us together, it makes it much easier to broach the subject. But you just tell the kids it's not because anything is going wrong. It's because you want to protect them. You want to be proactive. You want to make sure that everything is in place, and at the time that you leave them, you pass away, you die, whichever you are using to let them know that they don't have to worry. You have made these arrangements so they don't have to guess. One of the biggest things that happens is families fight that they wanted this or they wanted that. Put it out there. This is what I want. This is how you're going to follow through. It's making sure you've lived a good life. Hopefully, you've made sure everything is in place, and you've eased the burden on the family that they know who to call and what's going to happen. We take your money, we trust it, we put it into a trust account. And the good thing about that is our trust accounts are protected from Medicaid, Medicare. So they can only be used for your funeral services. They grow interest, and we use that interest to pay the future prices while you're paying the at-need prices for today. The state watches over all of that. It is put into an escrow account. It is registered with the state. As I said, it is your money. So if something ever happened, God forbid, and I go out of business, there's another funeral home that will purchase that account and serve your family with those arrangements and make sure everything is followed through what is on your contract. That was set forth by the state of Florida, and it is it's a federal trade commission law that we have to do that as funeral homes. We're talking about prearranging, and we're talking about living in 2 different states. If you prearrange in another state, I would make sure you're prearranging with a company that has a national backing. They have multiple locations. So if you're a snowbird, you come down here, you live here 6 months, you go back up, live somewhere else. We have 2,800 locations. There are also, you can call and come in. We have families that do that all the time and say, I have prearrangements here. Will you accept them if I pass away while I'm in Florida? So it's a conversation you have. So again, it's planning to let whoever is responsible, power of attorney, children, that you are moving forward, and you know exactly who to call. Many places offer what's called travel and relocation. So there are companies out there that if you are still traveling and you're going out of the country, you're even going to a different state where it's not as populated, that you can buy an insurance policy where everything is covered. So you don't have to worry about them having to pay additional fees because you have your travel and relocation. So every year, Reina can tell you, Kelly can tell you, I can tell you, the cost of living, the cost of expenses, the cost of things that we do go up, and you're paying more. I think somewhere the national average, if you were buying a house back in the 1950s, it was like a car was $2,000 and your house was $30,000. So, you know, we have inflation. We protect against inflation because when you prearrange and you put the money into the account and it's there for you, that interest is coming to us, and then we do not charge any more at the time of need or the time of death. So it's important to make sure you have all 3 steps in place. I am the last step, but I've never had a family walk in and say, I wish my parents didn't go to a financial advisor because I don't know what's going on, and they have all the control. The kids walk in and say, hold on, let me call the financial advisor and figure out what they have. Yes, they have life insurance. Yes, they have these bank accounts. Yes, we need 10 death certificates or 5 death certificates. I've never had a family come in and say, I wish they didn't go to a lawyer to get all of this done because now I'm excited. We get to go and do probate and go hang out at the court all day. It's a hard conversation for each and every one of us. And it's hard to walk through the threshold of every door, especially lawyers and funeral directors. Reina's a little bit easier. She's a financial advisor. Usually you're happy because they're like, you're going to make a lot of money. But for Kelly and I, it's hard to walk through, but we treat people well and make sure everything is taken care of, everything is in place, you're protected the way that you need to be. And when you're no longer here to tell your family where things are, what needs to be done, it's as if you have already set that ahead of for them. You've laid it out, you've told them what to do, and they follow your plan exactly as it's supposed to be.
Now,
so it's very important to have all of these conversations.
Jeffrey, one thing I know that you can attest to, and I just thought of it, so I want to add it to the conversation, is a lot of people don't realize that your power of attorney dies with you. So talk to us about how essential it is to have that document in place for you as a funeral director when someone doesn't have that. What do you do?
It's essential, and especially in Florida and in states where, as Reina had mentioned before, we're living longer, we're not remarrying, or we're not getting married, but you want that person to be in charge, your particular person that you deem to do everything else for you. You have to make sure that durable power of attorney is written correctly with a good lawyer so that they can present that to the funeral home, and I can follow the law that says, yes, this person is in charge. So your durable power does extend a little bit after the passing if that clause is in there saying they can make funeral arrangements, they can handle all of this, and they can follow through with my loved one's final wishes. So it is imperative that that document not only is created but it's updated, that you are checking to make sure if the laws have changed every couple years. So you're following up and saying, is there anything I need to do to update this? It's very important.
Yeah, and you want to make sure your ex-husband or ex-wife doesn't have control of that, right?
Exactly. Or there, I always tell people in funeral law, there's no yes, but. Yes, we're still married, but they live in a different state. It doesn't work like that. It's just the definitive yes. Yes, we're still married. We have to go to them to get all the signatures and authorizations to be able to finalize your wishes.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
I definitely want to give everybody a chance to do a quick closing remark. I see Reina waving over there.
Well, there's a story about every possible thing that could go wrong. And when the mention was of the death certificate, I had a couple who, for financial purposes, always showed to the public they were married, but they were not under the state of Florida. But when the first one passed and they made the death certificate, Mr. said they were married. And I can't tell you how impossible it is to prove that someone is not married. I mean, if someone's married, you can prove it with a certificate, but how do you prove they're not married? So there's one example. The other example is when he mentioned about having things written down.
Mm-hmm.
There is a comfort that people have that they know they filled out beneficiary information.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had more than one situation where when someone's passed some older document, you call the company and the computer shows no beneficiary because somebody didn't upload it, or a system was updated and it didn't bring forward the beneficiaries. And one of those cases, so where's the hard copy that's archived?
Mm-hmm.
In a warehouse in Philadelphia that burned down.
Yep.
So, I tell my clients every 2 years, they gotta just make a phone call and confirm, just like you said, that the 401k is not listed contingent beneficiary to an ex-spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that little life insurance policies, you dust off and say, they're no big deal, but they could have no beneficiary, which forces a probate, or they could have somebody that you no longer intend. So I just think if there was one thing I could tell people to walk away with, or two things to walk away with as a message, they should have a single piece of paper that lists every single thing they own. And on that should include exactly how it's titled and whether there's a beneficiary, and then update that at least once a year. For my clients, we're updating it throughout the year when we have appointments. But that's where we document titling to make sure it doesn't go through probate. That's where I would work with any attorney who basically, if there's a question about titling, to make sure we avoid probate where we can. But if everybody doesn't have a piece of paper that has everything they own, which they update once or twice a year with values, you don't know where you are, right? So I wish everybody safety. What do they say? Be positive, but test negative.
I've not heard that yet. All right, Kelly, closing remarks from you, my dear.
Thank you so much. What I want to say in closing is that seeing an attorney early could save your family their peace of mind, and it can save your life savings so that as much of it goes to your loved ones as possible. And to me, that is so important. When someone gives me their very last wishes and gives me their family to take care of, that is the highest honor. And if someone is not treating you that way, then, and you don't feel valued and you don't feel listened to and you don't feel like your concerns are being taken seriously and there are no solutions, then go and see somebody else. We have over 1,000 attorneys in Lee County.
And Kelly Fair is accepting new clients.
Listen, I definitely will be accepting questions if anyone sees this and has any kind of question whatsoever, because I could never answer everything in one session. Even if I was able to talk about my profession until the end of this very day, which I would love to, I would still not be able to answer all of the questions. So just make sure that you feel like you are with the right person who values you. Thank you.
I know, Kelly, in the past, you've offered a special for people that have come from SBB University. Are you still honoring that?
I actually am honoring that, yes. If anyone has a question arising from this talk or any talk from the Seniors Blue Book, you can contact my office. You could talk with me on the phone. You can make an appointment to see me in person. You can bring me a bag of all of your old documents for me to review, and I will not charge you, because I like to talk about what I do for education purposes, and I feel that if I'm not around to answer all of the questions, I really have not done anything for you today. So you could contact me and remind my office that you have a question arising from the Seniors Blue Book, and we would be more than happy to schedule an appointment so that I can speak with you personally.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. All right, Jeffrey, any closing remarks, my dear?
I do. Reina and Kelly have said it all, but I'd like to remind everyone, whether you stumbled onto the video, Amanda Barton and Senior Blue Book work extremely hard. The Blue Book is a senior guide, and she not only goes out there and makes sure that everyone's listed, she makes sure the people that are in there are really there and caring about the seniors. When Kelly said that, you know, it is an honor, the highest honor for us to serve our families, it really and truly is. When you come to us, you are our families 100%. But Amanda works extremely hard to make sure the people that are in the Senior Blue Book are there serving people and have that same attitude as Reina, Kelly, and myself do, because Amanda has it herself. She wants people there for our seniors.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's what I have. Absolutely. We love you. You're awesome.
Thank you. Major brownie points. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for SBB University, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.